is cool. All right. Eat that gavel. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We need to approve the agenda as presented. Need a motion?
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we need to approve the minutes from the consent agenda that we all received prior to this evening.
Approve the consent.
Yes, that's what I meant.
With minutes being the first item therein.
With minutes being, thank you for keeping me on track. With minutes being
approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we will move down to audience delegations. Do we have any tonight?
I think we have any.
All right. Partner organization, we have the Athletic Booster Club with us this evening.
Or B.
Hi, I'm Alicia Ripperger, and I am the president returning this year for the Booster Club, and I have with me tonight Michelle Morris, who is our new treasurer. So we have a couple of new officers, so Michelle being one of them, and Crystal Winchell being our new secretary this year, and returning Wally Ferguson is our other officer. So we are not completely new this year like we were last year. So I believe Susan forwarded you our financial statement. So financial update from us is that we had income of $118,413.98 and total expenses of $100,924.26. And so that led to a net income of $17,489.72, which was approximately about $10,000 greater than what we had last year. But it wasn't necessarily because we brought more in. It was because we spent less on overhead and expenditures regarding operating expenses. So we did a nice job of looking at those and decreasing our overhead. And I'm proud to present that we actually did increase our expenses that were actually put back into the athletic program with a couple of new programs that we did with the staffing of the concession stands with the sporting groups. We were able to give different athletic groups $9,905 at HHS for that, and then the remainder of our splits went to youth football program, and we had $75 that went to the art club that staffed one of our events. So we also were able to provide $4,500 to assist football with uniform purchasing for this year. And we did the Huddle subscription for all of the athletic department, which was $3,000 and $3,019-ish. So last year, if you'll remember, we had three main goals. One of them was to increase our membership and our positive image, and I felt like we did a really good job with that this year. We did the 3 events where we had the kickoff party, we had a dodgeball tournament, and we also did a spring event where we did the home run derby. All of those were pretty successful. We learned lots of things with that, but overall we came out in the green on all of those, so that was good. And then we are working on our second plan, which is our second item, which is the formal plan for the buses. We're exploring opportunities to, right now we're collecting bids to purchase at least one new Big Blue. Once we get those bids and get closer to that, we'll invite the board, and we'll also be inviting administration to look at those. We've already had one of the companies have offered to bring a bus down for us to look at as a group. So we want everybody to be in partnership with that since we contract with you guys, and we want to make sure we have the best thing for our kids. So, and then the third thing was our increased partnership and enhanced efficiencies. And as I said, we had less in our overhead. We had the sports team staffing. We had we partnered with a couple of other groups, so the Blue Note Boosters, Senior Mania, and Band Boosters. We partnered with them a little bit more on concessions and allowing them to use our space this last year. And then we're looking for continued opportunities to build and maintain partnerships. I've already reached out with Coach Terwilliger regarding student council and trying to get greater student involvement as well in some of the activities. And we're going to be doing some membership recruiting. I'm attending all of the sporting parent meetings, trying to recruit more people. So that's the goal. Any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I will tell you, I think the Booster Club this year has done a really good job. The way that, I love the fact that you asked other sports to work the concession stand. Everybody should take their turn in doing that. Not only does it give back to your program, but if my kid's a wrestler, I don't want to work the concession stand while he's wrestling. So that gives those parents the opportunity to watch their kid while somebody else is working the concession stand. And I think that's a brilliant idea and a great way to spread the wealth. So good job on that.
Yeah, that was one of the feedbacks that we got. The parents didn't want to work when their kids were playing, and we had groups that didn't have concession stands, so they wouldn't reap the benefits of getting the money from those. And so we worked it out where anybody could sign up, and so tennis could get money if they worked. And
I even recruited my son to work the concession stand. Not sure how he would handle the concession stand. He did great. So that was even a good opportunity for me to see my child be actually very organized and responsible. It was nice.
Yeah.
Volunteers are your hardest thing to get to work those.
Yes.
Don't work yourselves into the ground.
That is
on that.
Mm-hmm.
I did it for 7 years, and that was tough. But on the buses, the only thing I would throw out one suggestion for y'all, just from past, and I didn't know this till we started looking at Big Blues, and look at the buses in your storage compartment. You might take that into consideration, because we do a lot with Blue Notes and all them.
right.
And those storage compartments are a little bit different depending on the style of the buses, and they may have changed. But
That was one of the
you can
components
stand the
we looked at.
instruments upright, and you get more in there than some of the others. And
And football gear. And yeah, one of the buses that we were interested in has overhead capacity as well, so they could put their bags and things overhead, which we currently don't have that. So that was kind of nice. So
yeah, and that storage just on that, which seems, but Blue Notes at the one time were like, Athletic Boosters doesn't do anything to help us, and I'm like, we bought this bus just so we could get your instruments in there easier.
yeah.
Of the two buses, so
Well, it kind of helps. I have a kid that's in band and in sports, so so I can kind of be a liaison, I hope. So, so I think that's it. That's all I've got.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
As always, you're free to stay, but if you would like to leave, you don't have to stay after your presentation. Okay.
Really?
Very good. Thanks.
Thank you.
Everybody leaves, so that's great. All right. Monthly information items under communications.
Want me to talk?
Yeah.
Okay. Got your handbooks in there that we talked about earlier. Expenditure and revenue reports for the previous month. That's about it.
Okay. Anybody have any discussion on that? Okay. Moving on to the assessment and evaluation of district programs.
We've got a preliminary year-end for 6:30. I will say we still have closing entries to do, and we'll have audit to go through. So this is preliminary, but I don't expect it to change very much. We are looking at an ending percentage fund balance of 22.84 for this year. Any questions?
All right. Technology department.
Sorry, I won't be quite as fast as that. Bear with me. There we go. Sorry about the delay there. I'm Mike Diggs, if you guys haven't met me in the past. I'm the Director of Technology here at Harrisonville. Got several different items to cover tonight, and I promise I'll go through them quick, so if you have any questions, hit me up at the end. I'll be happy to answer those. So the first thing I want to talk about is staff and student devices we have in the district. As you can see, we have a wide array of devices. We have Windows devices. We got Apple devices. We have Chromebooks. I did bring a couple with me, a couple props. This is a teacher laptop if you want to take a look at it. This is kind of the standard teacher-issued laptop that we currently have.
It looks very similar to the one I have in front of me.
Does it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a little bit similar. You just want to hold on to those, Mr. Eggers, when you're done. And then that's a standard Chromebook that we issue to students K through 12. So we kind of talked about what type of devices we have. So the next question is, where are those devices? This is just a quick building breakdown. As you can see, the buildings are on the left there. We got the specific types of devices each building does have. And so something to note, the main takeaway from this page, the numbers in red there are Chromebooks that we had in our lower K through 8 grades. We've made a big push the last 2 years from 2017 to now to make sure that we increase the technology in those grade levels. I know you guys are aware we've been doing one-to-one at the high school for the last 5 years. I think we're going on year 6. And so we wanted to make sure we gave that same opportunity to K through 8. And so like I said, we've over doubled, almost tripled the number of computers at those levels. So how do we look different from 2017 to 2019? We've had a big shift, obviously, from MacBooks over to Chromebooks for student devices. Couple reasons why. Obviously, we can stretch our dollar more. Chromebooks, like I said, I can buy 3 to 4 Chromebooks for one single MacBook, and so that's allowed us to put more technology across the board in students' hands. And the other thing is, we really got good feedback from the high school at the end of this year, as far as the administrators, on how smooth the year went, on how it seemed like the students were almost less stressed with those devices, even though I'm sure some of them complained, but they are a simpler device. And so, again, like I said, we got good feedback. So major projects we've completed or have in place. I'm just going to go over what's in red real quickly. Spring testing went smooth. In the spring, students, teachers are super stressed. And so the last thing we want them to have is another stressor, which would be technology. And so we're proud to say we didn't have any glitches. Hopefully that trend continues. We've replaced all projectors at McEwen, HES, and ECC last summer. This summer we're going to do the high school, we're going to do the middle school, and then we're going to do CCC. Some of the projectors were over 10 years old, 12 years old. They were hard to see. They'll all have, by the end of the summer, everybody will have a new projector like this. And these are high definition. They're LED, they're energy efficient. And then the other thing, we added the Chromecast, which is kind of what I'm using. So every classroom will have a Chromecast available to use as well, which we've had that the last 2 years at McEwen and HES, and it's really caught on. And we use it here quite a bit, obviously. We've added 10 additional carts of Chromebooks. Also to K through 8, they're 28 per cart. That's just a quick picture, kind of what they look like. That's really given our buildings a lot more flexibility as far as, say, a teacher wants to do a unit that pretty much deals with technology all week. They can check that out, and every single kid can have access to a computer. So last school year, the 2018-2019 school year, just a simple breakdown of the buildings and the total number of work orders completed. Obviously, the high school is always going to be the highest just because of devices, student population. So this is kind of an important slide. Backups and disaster recovery. So we have a lot of mission critical data here, such as Kathy's, that we store that off-site in secure locations. So really the big takeaway is, say we had an F5 tornado, for example, like Joplin did, and it wipes us flat. And God forbid something like that happens. But if it does, we can set up in a McDonald's, we can set up in a library, parking lot, As long as we have access to the internet, we can get to our financial data, we can get to our student information system, we can get to our emails, and then we have access to our staff and student files also. So we have a great safety net in place. Kind of a new wing to our department is school security. A lot of security solutions nowadays are really technology related, and so the safety committee approved in the spring, and you approved as well, to put in single wire this fall. It's a intruder alerting system that we should have in place hopefully by November is the plan at the very latest. That can send immediate alerts to teachers' phones in the classrooms, office phones, library phones. We can send stuff over the intercom system, the PA system, etc. And we can also customize those alerts, so it doesn't have to be an intruder alert. Obviously, we can do weather alerts. We could do all kinds of stuff. Next step, we still continue to monitor students' emails. We monitor for threats of violence, suicide, pornography, etc. Gaggle monitors that for us. Like I said, they've done it for the last 5 years. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If they detect something or flag something, they'll immediately contact us. If they can't get anybody at the school, they will contact local authorities if it's something that's that important. And I added an extra slide in there if you have any information or you want more information, you can read that. It kind of details specifically what they do. And then the last thing, my last prop too, we've added new camera technology to the district. We put a bunch of these over the stadium as well, but as you can see, the old single video feeds, obviously they just had one lens. That's the back of the Career Center. We've been placing these 4-way cameras, and if you take a look, you can see that it has 4 lenses and a single housing that we can turn so we can get a full 360-degree picture. And so, for example, if you look at the back of the Career Center right there, we're getting where the big blue buses are parked. We're getting the ag lot. We're getting the walk door where students come and go during the day. And then we're also getting where the students kind of walk by that white car between the high school from a single camera. The other thing about these cameras, they do have better technology in them. And so the old style cameras send data constantly over the network. It's always feeding the network. It's always sending video constantly. These new 4-ways, they only send video when there's motion, okay? And they don't send the whole picture. They may only send that small part of that picture, and so we save a ton of data on our network. Again, here's another example of a 4-way we just got mounted. So at the end of next week, we should have one of these 4-ways at the front of every single building that houses students. And again, like I said, it's a huge advantage to have one mounting camera. As you can see, we're getting the front door ECC, we're getting the parking lot, we're getting the walkway up, and then we're also getting to the left and to the right. Again, that's all a single camera. And the other thing is when we license these cameras, it's only taking one license. We don't have to pay for 4. Okay, so that's another advantage. So some of the places we're putting this in, we're taking down 2 or 3 cameras, replacing it with a single one. So upcoming current projects or ongoing needs. You heard me talk about the projectors. We want to make sure we're still funding the 4-year replacement plan. That's the plan that we want to keep in place to make sure teachers have what they need in the classroom so we don't have aging projectors, etc. And usually after the 4th year, going into the 5th year, technology really does degrade. And so we want to make sure we remove that. And then the last thing, bandwidth increase. When I say bandwidth, what I'm really talking about is our traffic from our ISP, which is MoreNet. We want to make sure every year or 2 we increase the size of our pipe, we call it, out to the real world. Okay, and so the demands went up for the last 10 or 15 years. I don't see it going down, and so we just got to keep making sure we meet the demand for the students. Last slide, most important slide. I really do believe I do have the best IT staff, or we have the best IT staff in the city when it comes to education. There's a lot of advantages. If you look right here, every single year of education, so Jesse, Diane, Gary, and Kathy, they've spent their whole career as far as education directly in Harrisonville schools. You have 3 of them that are alumni, and Gary's not, but both of Gary's daughters graduated from the high school. Okay, so in total, we have 66 years of experience directly with Harrisonville Schools and the staff. And so they really do make my job easy, and I want to make sure they're recognized. I couldn't get them to take a glamour shot, so I got the next best thing. I stole this guy off Jill. I had to take the picture, of course, so ignore my big head. I had the longest arms of those. The picture. But there's Kathy on the lower left, and then there's Diane, and there's Gary on the back, and that's Jesse. We're having a box unpacking party. We had 3 or 4 of those this summer, which is all kinds of fun. But anyway, last slide is this is just kind of stuff that we do or are responsible for. We do blur those lines quite a bit, depending on what's needed at the time. We're kind of jack of all trades, a lot of us. So that's all I have tonight. Hopefully I didn't take too long, and I can take any questions if anybody has a question.
Sure, good.
Sure.
Couple. First one I think is real simple. You mentioned Chromecast. I'm an old expired IT guy. I don't know what that is anymore. Can you give me a high level?
It's what it is. It creates pretty much a wireless network between the projector, almost like Bluetooth,
right,
and the computer.
Okay.
And so, actually, in reality, that is what we call a consumer-based device. We've got them to work here at the district. We had to redesign our wireless network, but we put money in to do that because we can buy those for about $35 a piece.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
And so when you're outfitting a whole school district and they're $35 a piece, that's a lot more affordable.
Sure.
And so we put some money to redesigning our wireless network to keep it secure. But all it does is create a secure wireless network between the 2 devices. So if you go into school and you go to Chromecast, you have to be a teacher or a staff member to see it from your computer, and all the rooms are labeled, etc. So
okay, very cool.
Yeah, so students just can't walk in and just send whatever they want to. But.
Okay. Other question is kind of network related as well. You mentioned the Gaggle software. We're scanning student emails for some hot topics.
Yep.
Do we do that at all with the network on non-school devices such as, cell phones, texts?
No.
That sort of thing. Okay.
Nope. All right. Strictly email, and it's only students' emails.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, we archive everybody's emails, and so we have copies, but there's nothing filtering or scanning anybody's emails unless they're a student.
Well, the reason I ask, probably pretty obvious, but having had teenagers, they don't use email. They did when they were in high school because some of their teachers forced them to, but 95% of their communication with their peers is text or social media.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, the students know they're getting scanned here, and so they got smart and started doing it in Google Docs. But we scan Google Docs now too.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
I like it.
Well,
very good.
It's on our network. We can't. Unless it's our device, we can't scan it. So it's
well, arguably we can scan traffic on our network.
Right. If it's either on our network or our device, we can scan it. But otherwise, if it's their phone and they're using 3G or whatever, or
absolutely.
LTE, I don't even know how we would.
Yeah. Cell phones don't work real good in our buildings. Most of them.
True.
So.
Very true.
We could put repeaters in, but I don't know if we want to do that.
No.
We're good.
No.
Is that it?
Put jammers in.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay. CSIP.
So I'm just going to give you an update on our process for strategic planning. So Ann Hickman right now is working on collecting the stakeholders that we want to invite from the buildings themselves. So we have the stakeholders that the board has given us. We're as soon as the principals come back, some of them will be back tomorrow. Most of them will be back next week. We'll have a complete list, and we can send those invites out and start our initial stakeholder meetings for our strategic planning. So that's where we're at as we move forward. Now, I know we're not going to get everybody. We don't want the group. We don't want thousands of people. Obviously, we want to make it sure that we have a consistent group. The goal is to have up to 60 people We probably won't get that many, but the goal is somewhere in that area so that we can get some accurate feedback and some growth and development with that group. So,
Okay. Any questions or comments?
Glad the process is beginning.
You betcha. Board policy revisions. We need a motion.
I move to approve board policies AC and EF as presented by MSBA.
Second.
Any discussion on this?
Well, they're time sensitive, so I don't think we have time. Apparently.
I don't think they mean tonight, but we have like 2 minutes.
Okay.
But that being said, is there any discussion on these? All right, I'm hearing a no. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Personnel, CCC part-time PN position proposal. We need a motion.
Move to approve changing the CCC part-time PN position from 399 hours to 500 hours beginning with the 2019-20 school year.
Second.
Okay.
So the proposal that's before you was developed by the Career Center. I think it's a great proposal. It gives us increased hours and also an increased reimbursement from the state. So actually, it saves the school district money, and we get more hours for our students. So it's a win-win. And
Totally.
Any other projects they can do that with?
Yeah, exactly. Well, please, I'm assuming Jeanette, but whoever it came from, please pass on my thanks, because $5,000 here, $6,000 there, it all
Absolutely.
adds up.
It all adds up. That's right.
Not to mention the more service from
Absolutely. Any other questions or comments? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Receptionist pay recommendation. We need a motion.
I move to approve moving the part-time receptionist positions from a clerical class 1 to a clerical class 2 position.
Do we have a second?
Second.
So again, this is with the change in responsibilities in our office. We were asking those ladies to do some additional duties that really constitutes an increase in their responsibilities that would fall into that Class 2 position. So it's our recommendation to increase their pay accordingly.
Does this affect the overall savings that we were achieving by having these be part-time positions?
It's going to reduce a little bit, but again, when you weigh it versus the positions that were reduced in this office, then it kind of a drop in the bucket, really. So.
About a 50, roughly, because each step's slightly different, about 50-cent raise.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Assistant girls wrestling coach. We need a motion.
Move to approve the addition of an assistant girls wrestling coach.
Do we have a second?
Second.
So we have an increase, as you hopefully are aware. We had Misha separated wrestling into boys and girls wrestling last year. This year will be the first full year that they're on actually separate dates. We did add one assistant girls wrestling coach last year to kind of compensate for that a little bit, that separation. In essence, we added another sport. Misha added another sport for us. Our program has been successful, very successful already, and we anticipate between 15 and 20 new girls wrestlers next year. To put this in perspective, so we have essentially one head coach over the entire program. We have two assistant coaches for the boys, and we have one for the girls. I have some concerns, Title IX concerns, supervision concerns. This is a varsity position, so there was a good question about how does this compare to the soccer situation, which we had earlier. I thought that was a really good question. Again, it's a varsity position. The sport was added not really by us, and then to meet Title IX. So That's the recommendation that I have for that position. So.
Any questions or comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, moving on to business services, purchase of a van. We need a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the purchase of a 2018 Ford Transit cargo van from Vantage Motors for a purchase price of $19,194.
Second.
You were talking, you want me to talk?
Yep. No, I didn't. Sorry. Getting stuff. Our current delivery van is the old Cash Pure Center van that you see. Doors are falling off, heater doesn't work, brakes are going bad, and it's been all year we've talked about this, but we knew we were also making that transition. We did look at APCO purchasing, but they're going to end up adding costs to that. So did quite a bit of online shopping. Did also go out to Max Motors. They didn't ever get back to me. And they were specific, said, hey, I'll get back to you next week. I went to Show Me Auto Mall. They don't deal with these very often. They gave me another number of Belton. I called, and that guy didn't call me back. So I continued my online shopping. Found these. We were looking at the size smaller, the Connect, because I was trying to stay in the $10,000 to $15,000 range is where I was trying to be. Just concerned with that Connect wasn't quite big enough to get our pallet of stuff on there. Found this place actually had 2 or 3 of them, and so we went up there and kind of looked at them and tried to find the best value, I guess, for the dollar, the best vehicle for the dollar based on the mileage. And they had one a little bit cheaper when we went out there, but it had 3 times as many miles. So
I just was a little bit curious about the Ram. I don't know anything about it, but it had less mileage, and it seemed like the price was reasonable. Is there some reason you didn't?
They're a little bit smaller too, and I think I've looked at a lot of quotes. They're a little bit smaller. You don't see near as many of those out in the workforce. As soon as you start looking at transits, you see them everywhere because every company is using them. When I went to Max Motors, he goes, I'm not going to be able to find one for you because most of the people that drive a transit drive it until it's, like we did with the Cash Career Center van, until it's gone. And so he goes, very rarely do I find a used one. So I wasn't finding many used transits. That's why I kind of went otherwhere and then went to that Connect because you could find a few more of those. So when I found this place had these 3, I kind of jumped on it. I went up and talked where those Rams were with Enterprise. It was just a little bit different dealership to deal with also.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Surplus property. We need a motion.
I move to approve the surplus property list as presented. Oh, I didn't read the action. Let me change that, Susan. I move to declare as surplus property a 1996 Ford cargo van and a 1996 Chevy 3/4 ton pickup truck.
Second.
The pickup truck blew a transmission, doing a lot of snow removal this year. It's old beat up truck. It's we got a price, I think it was around $3,000. Do some work on that. It's not worth that at all. So we need to just surplus it to get it off our space, and then we will have to look at potential needs and what we're going to decide to do with snow removal and or the number of maintenance personnel that we have, so we have enough vehicles for people to get around. Now, if we're not doing snow removal in the future, or we do some different things, we don't need a 3/4 ton 4x4 pickup. We can just get a smaller. So we have some decisions yet to be made before we move forward, but I'd like to get them surplused, and so it's not sitting there in the distribution center.
Anybody have anything? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
At a point of order on our last purchase of a van, do we need to make the budget amendment? I think there was a little note at the end. So does that take a separate motion?
Susan, the budget amendment it's going to require.
I would think that would need to be a separate motion.
Okay.
I thought we did that when we reviewed
No,
the budget.
we did not.
Well, Nancy means later on when we review you'll have that in a budget amendment. Yeah.
We don't need to do it
Don't
tonight.
need to
Oh,
do
you
it
don't
now.
have to do it tonight.
Okay.
That was my point of clarification.
All right. Do we need to make a motion to reconvene? Okay. We will need
You're
to.
gonna close.
Yep.
I updated it on there. if
You
had
did.
it
Okay. Good
refreshed,
job.
So.
Thank you. We need a motion to adjourn and reconvene.
I move to adjourn the regular meeting and reconvene in closed session.
Second.
A motion in a second.
We have to roll call it.
Doug Alexander,
Yes.
Bing,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Brittany,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Tina,
Yes.
Doug Meyer. Thank you.